We are happy to have Barbara here tonight. A few years back, she did a demo for folk, and before she started the demo, she had some samples, and I look at the price, I say, what a greedy person. and then after watching the demo, I said, oh my God, that's a bargain price. So I have to watch my I saw the setup and all the things that goes into creating it. I was very impressed. And when I was looking for more artists for here, I said, I have to bring her back. So, Barbara is originally from Seattle, and she graduated from Colorado State University in fine art and metalsmithing, and worked as a jewelry maker for a long time.
No.
I mean, for jewelry manufacturer.
I did work for a manufacturer for briefly, and I hated it. Yeah. So
anyway, she changed career and went to nursing for a long time, maybe 27 years.
I'm retired now.
Yeah. And now after retirement, she's back to art, and she started with silk painting. She tried painting for a while, but it's a
I was a watercolorist for about 20 years. I started studying with George Rivera in the early 90s, and I became a groupie of George Rivera. I don't know. I know Heidi, you know him well.
Yeah, actually she texted me. He texted me and said, "Oh, you're bringing my student there."
Yeah. Anyway,
now after watercolor, she went to silk painting, and she actually did like figures like I saw here. So it looks like it's a lot of work, and you are in a scarf, which is come beautifully. I like the colors and everything. So this is your passion now?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it is. Yeah.
And if you want to add anything more, just go ahead. Feel free to let us know more.
Okay. Well, Heidi said a lot of it. I did tons of watercolor. I was a signature member of Watercolor West, and then I got. My family goes to we haven't since COVID, but for about 30 years, my family would go to this YMCA camp up in the Sierras, and they had a really good craft person. And one year, she brought silk painting, and it was really difficult. I did nothing that was, but I was like, oh, those colors. So I was totally seduced, and I've been pretty much exclusively painting on silk since 2010. Actually, the last watercolor I did was I was so International Artists magazine, and you can submit for for contests. And I didn't get into the contest, but I was asked to write an article. The payment for writing this article was 10 free copies of the magazine. And I forgot to include my contact information in the body of the article, so oh well. But that was the last watercolor I did. It was February 2010. I didn't bring it because it was watercolor. Anyway. So silk painting is a very fickle master. It's intensely process oriented. I mean, there's with watercolor, okay, you got the colors and you got the techniques. There's a lot. As you can see, you can do everything from scarves to fine detailed paintings. Mine are pretty small, but I do know it's different techniques. There's a different technique where you know, these paintings like this, like Georgia O'Keeffe type flowers. So it's not paint, it's actually dye. So as you can see, if you paint on something, you know, it stiffens it. I mean, you know, you paint on canvas, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to prime the canvas, otherwise you start to paint on it and it will just go, you know, you can't paint on unprimed canvas. With silk, you have to find, you have to have ways of controlling it. If you just paint on, you know, a plain piece of silk, it just goes, there's no control. So there are various methods of controlling. One think batik, that's a way of controlling it. And the Japanese, of course, have taken that art form to the nth degree with a technique called roketsuzome. You know, if you're really a roketsuzome master, you're a monk, you know. And batik is wax. That's created by layering color with wax. It's a what you call it, additive process. You know, you start with your lights, you block those off, and then you kind of build and build and build, and at the very end you get your real darks. This is not that. So another one of the main forms of controlling it's called a Serti process, S-E-R-T-I. I think it's a French name. It uses a liquid resist that you usually draw on. You can paint on. Let's see. Here they are. I have. So this is water-based resist that comes from. This is a water-based resist paste. It's called Resistad. You mix it, and you can mix it with either water, you can mix it with dye, so you can end up with colored lines. With the traditional Serti, it's a solvent-based resist, and the line, whatever line you put is the color of what's under it, the line doesn't show. So if you want to have outline, things that are outlined the best way to go is to do a water-based resist that you can actually mix with dye. Let's see. This particular piece, my last demo, I did a piece that had a salt texture. It wasn't this scarf, but it's a similar scarf to this. And you see, it's close to the same pattern that I'm going to be using today. And the dyes inside the leaves, I dye and then I put salt on them. However, that was with Sennelier dyes. They don't make them anymore. The company that makes it's an acid dye, and it is set with steam. It's about 30 to 45 minutes of a very intense steam. You have to either make or purchase a steamer, and you have to keep your silk away from the water. You want it to steam, the moist heat, but you can't get water on it. So the other dye product that is very similar to this, but not quite. It's made by DuPont, and it's DuPont acid dyes. Everything's in French because they're made in France. I don't speak French. So I was going to go back to my same technique with the salt texture, but DuPont dyes move differently than Sennelier dyes. even though I had made a test of my Sennelier dyes, or my DuPont dyes, to see if they would move with salt, and they did. When I got my piece all with my lines. It's going to be very similar to the other one. And I did a test, and it looked like yuck. It didn't move. Even though I had diluted them with water, they didn't move. They'll probably move if I dilute them with the DuPont diluent. So I have some of that, and I can set this up and we can try it. I might have you guys try it. What?
I have a question. So when you use a salt, you use a special salt, or you can use like table salt of different kind of?
Yeah, you can use table salt. Where did I put it?
Any salt is fine, right?
Did I not bring it? I think I didn't. Well, oh, yep. Well, I guess that's out. Unless there's salt in there. You can use any salt.
Do you mind if we keep asking questions? Do you want us to wait?
Please, please.
So that one with your pattern, you
Uh-huh.
use the resist, the water-based resist, I'm assuming, the leaf?
This one?
No, the one on top you just showed us, the white,
The one
white
with just the
scarf.
outline.
This is water-based resist, yes.
okay. So at some point you take that resist off, or that stays on forever? Like a batik, you take the wax off.
Right,
For this,
so you can feel it. You can feel there's a little hand to it. Right, you can pass it around.
But after you steam it disappear, right?
The color won't disappear, but the actual resist it washes off, so there's nothing left but the color.
Yeah, right.
So the color line.
Yes.
It's kind of interesting just like that.
Also, I have a question.
Mhm.
So I remember when I was a kid, not a kid. So I was about 20, and I had some classes on batik in Russia, and it was completely different. It wasn't plastic tube. Yes, it was a special glass thing with a kind of bubble, and the resist was going very slowly and very nice line. With this stuff, for me, it's kind of headache because you have to push all the time.
You push it, it blobs. You have to, even if you look in there, my lines tend to be fairly thick because I mix this up. So I have to have it thick enough that it resists, but I have to have it thin enough so I can squeeze it. You probably were using a solvent-based resist, a Gouta.
I'm using Gouta, yeah.
A Gouta. Is it a solvent-based Gouta?
It contained. Yes. Oh, I didn't take with.
So, do you clean it up with water or do you clean it up
With solution, not
with solvent?
Yeah,
Yeah. Those are good resists. But the only way you can get them off the silk is with solvent as well.
Right.
So I went to Plan B for my demo today. So something I have been experimenting with. You can see, right? You can see it.
Yeah.
So this is something that my mentor, Susan Moyer, she's one of the heavyweights. She and I did a bunch of experimenting trying to print textures onto silk. And what I found was if I mix up a solution of the resistat and I mix it very, very thin so I can just paint it on, and then this texture was made, you can't see the, you can see this, that was made with, not this piece of not this plain gauze, but basically, you know, this is like a acrylics dressing, and it comes apart. You know, so you can get a really nice texture. You just take it all the way apart, and it's so I can get it apart. It's actually very wide. Come on, you. Trust me, it's like this way.
I remember I used it when I little.
Yeah.
Magical surprise.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
There we go. So it's, you know, oh, I'm ripping it. Huh. Well, this would be very interesting too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cheap gauze. I got it on Amazon. But it's actually, I mean, it's ripping apart, but hey, that might be really fun, right? So I paint the resistat on, and then I put some color on, and I might put some dye on this, and then I just, you know, put it, you know.
It gives you different colors. Okay.
Yeah, different colors. And the piece of gauze that I use, the nice thing is I reuse the gauze. And so the old gauze has some color on it, and you get some really interesting variations in color. And then I put saran wrap over it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have four actually. I put heating pads over it and let it dry. Actually, I have a piece of foam core board that I put cosplay foam over, and then I didn't bring it because it's, you know, this big, and saran wrap on that so it doesn't get too damaged, and it's almost like a printing surface.
Mm-hmm.
So then I
Do
let
you
the,
remove the gauze later, or
yep. So it just leaves its impression.
after the heating you remove it?
Yeah, after the heating, and then I make sure when I remove it that I dry it really well.
And you were talking about when the gauze it has some color there,
Uh-huh.
and you can use it again. Means you can reactivate the color on the gauze.
Yeah. So I have this big pile of gauze and saran wrap. I use the saran wrap, you know, in the corner of my table. And this piece of gauze had some ochre color and a really yummy dark. This actually a mauve, but it's just like super dark. And you know, and I put the orange and the salmon color and the pink on, and yeah, and the saran wrap gives a texture. So this is a saran wrap texture in the background of this. The texture on this is saran wrap. Yeah, and if you'll notice, it looks a little bit singed. Yes, it is a little bit scorched. That's one of the other. It's kind of like whack-a-mole. So when the dyes changed, the dye diluent also changed, and if it sits on, if it's fine if you do a piece and you do it fast and you steam it right away, but if it sits for, this one sat for quite a while because I was like, I wanted to batch things, and it sat for months. It scorches in the steamer, which is the same thing that happened to this. See, you can tell. I mean, it's okay, it's fine. I'm gonna mount it, but I lost my whites. Yeah. This was like white, but not more. But it's okay. least it's not supposed to be blue. So, so with another thing that happens when I do the resist with the water-based resist is it primes the surface of the silk. I have to use a surfactant, which is what the diluent is, or I've started using clear organic dish soap, a few drops in water to act as a surfactant to allow the dye to flow. So this one, similar technique, but it was not a water-based resist that I used for the base coat. It was a solvent-based resist that I used. This is a technique that Susan Moyer developed. She keeps it very close to her chest, but it's basically a solvent-based resist that's been thinned with more solvent, and it creates a very nice texture, or a very nice surface for painting.
So how long you take that gorgeous
That
piece?
big one? That one took me over a year because I had just gotten it started and I broke my hand. And then, you know, it was in the middle of COVID and I was depressed. You know, I wasn't painting much, and it sat for, it took a year and a half to finish. And that's why it scorched so bad when I finally steamed it. Yeah.
And for that poinsettia piece, you use a saran wrap. Did you do it first before you painted the poinsettia on? Because I don't
Yes.
see any,
You can see the,
I only see this, that saran wrap.
well, you could, so I had the design in mind, and when I did my colors, I put red and green, you know, in the place where I wanted the poinsettia, and I kept this basically light. And then so you can see the texture, but no, I knew if I put a bunch of blue that I'd end up with purple or,
Thank you.
This is a totally different technique. This is a Christmas card. This is a pretty traditional. I used the water-based resist, and you can actually see it. It turned a little color.
How do you keep it so circle?
Yeah.
How do you keep the circle so circle?
That was a little bit hard. I did a smaller one, and the tension on the when I took it off, it was like.
You have to dry it right away.
Before you stretched it or after?
I drew it before I stretched it.
Before, yes.
Well, you can't just draw on the silk because it's like, you know. But no, actually I drew it after, but I kept the tension. I tried to keep the tension really even. You know, sometimes you can get, if you see the tension lines. Yeah. This is a small frame and it's, you know, really close. And so if you get tension uneven, it's what can I say? It just sort of worked. The other thing, as you see, right here.
Oh, it's double-sided too.
Yeah. So
It's a
that
distant
is
galaxy?
actually
Wow.
the colors will fade in the light. So this has been sitting in my studio. It's kind of an under things, and I think this was sticking out.
It's beautiful.
When you frame batik, does it have a glass?
It has a UV block on the framed pieces. They're mounted. It's almost like like a decoupage. It's an acrylic. There's an acrylic adhesive, and then I've been using golden satin varnish, golden acrylic varnish, and I can't find it right now. I looked on Dick Flick. Anybody else use acrylic golden? Yeah. Anyway, I'm like, oh no, not another thing that's going away.
When you frame, do you put a black board behind it to bring
It's a
the
white
colors
board.
out?
It's a white.
A white?
Because the silk is translucent, so a black board would darken it.
Ah,
It's a piece of gesso board,
okay.
ampersand gesso board.
So
Which, yeah.
you just use the black on the board.
This,
Uh-huh.
that's paint, that dyed, that's dyed.
Oh, okay.
It was a white piece of silk,
Oh, okay.
and this is dyed.
So it's actually glued into the gesso board?
Yeah, basically.
All over glue, not just stretching across the, just like.
Right, it's fixed to it's fixed to the surface. I didn't bring any that I don't have in a frame. I could pop it out of it. So, here.
That's a trick to get it.
See, there's the gesso board.
Uh-huh.
That's the back of it. This is a cheap frame for, open studios. I wanted things framed, but I wanted
So
it cheap.
inside it is stretched, the silk is stretched on a
silk-
white board.
The silk is adhered to the whiteboard.
With what?
It's basically stuck to it.
But that's a trick, learning how to do that without getting wrinkles in
And
it.
how is it?
Well,
How
and
is
learning, yeah, you
That's
have
a
to,
long-
yeah, that's.
Making no wrinkles.
Well, the no wrinkles part, you take brush and you move like, you wet the surface, you wet the piece a little bit, and then you put the acrylic, what's I using?
It
Nova
just,
color acrylic varnish, huh?
oh,
It's a varnish, it's kind of okay.
Yeah, but the Nova color acrylic varnish goes,
Like glue, you're using like glue, yes?
like
Varnish
glue,
like
yeah.
On the back of it?
Yeah, it's-
Underneath, and then I go like
Straight.
this, right? And the way Susan did it was put a second coat of that over the top. And then to put 2 coats, and it's watered down, so it's easier, it's not thick like glue. And then 2 coats of the golden acrylic satin varnish. That's also watered down, and that's got a UV protectant in it.
I think just like a Chinese traditional Chinese brush painting, the painting, traditional painting, they can save 1,000 years.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think, yeah, they just like this similar.
Do they adhere it onto it with,
They use brush.
I wonder if it's like a soy,
Yeah, like a glue something, rice
glue,
yeah, rice
yeah,
glue something.
okay, oh, interesting. In the Rosomi technique, in the Japanese technique, they actually prime the silk with, it's a soybean, you can grind up like 8 soybeans in a cup of water, and it makes this, goju, something like that. Anyway, it sort of primes the silk to take the color, but it's kind of interesting. They're the masters, the Chinese, they're the masters. Okay, so what I was doing here while we were talking, and it backfired a little bit on me, I wanted to see how sometimes when I do this resist-add wash and then set it with heat, it becomes kind of permanent. And but it actually took the color, it took the water okay, and even left the water line. So I'm gonna see, and I have a piece of black paper under here because it's easier to see the clear lines. Now it's a little bit, doesn't quite wanna flow. If you have untreated silk, the dye will just flow right into right up to the edges, but
now it doesn't flow, right?
no, it's not flowing. I'll just have to find my edge. This is a dark blue. So the area that I went over with the water is flowing much better. So I might do that with the rest of you. You can come up and look if you want. You don't have to sit there.
You guys can gather around.
Yeah, you can gather around. It's okay.
So you're saying this is blue?
It is. It's a very dark blue, and I'm using it fairly concentrated. Having a little bit of a hard time seeing where my lines are. Yeah, if I had a. What I'm gonna do. Let's see it better. There. I'm just gonna do this water in here. And this is gonna give me a better idea of where my lines are. This is the water with the diluent in it. Okay, so here. Yeah. I went over there. Didn't see my line.
You can't see the line either.
So you're basically putting the background behind a leaf?
Yeah,
What is the reason you're editing
the
both?
leaves are gonna stay, it's a leaf pattern, and the leaves are gonna stay with the basic pattern on it, and then the background is,
So
Gonna be
this
dark.
is water?
this is water, and it's got a little bit of the DuPont diluent in it, and that DuPont diluent is some sort of crazy,
So what's the effect of this?
it opens it opens the silk up a little bit again.
So it'd be easier to paint.
Yeah. So that, yeah. So normally, if I just used Surti, I wonder if there's any salt in there, in the kitchen. Darn it.
If we don't come to it so close, we cannot see the texture.
And wherever you stop, you're going to end up with a line. So when you're painting, you can't go into it, you gotta push it from behind. With the water, it's not a big deal. But over here, if I don't, I could end up with a line if I don't get back on that. Stuck on here, kind of wet this. And the line will advance. This is a very dark color, so it's not quite that important, but if you're doing a pastel color,
Are you
Shows up
keeping
your
that
stop
color, or
line
are you
shows
gonna
up more.
layer it?
this is just going to be this color. The in the background, or or the leaves.
So it's an additive process, so you keep on building the.
So this is like a negative painting.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I'm painting the background.
Did you add water here on your
Yes,
bloom?
yes,
Little
there's
bit?
about a half, I added that water has, that's actually my mixed up solution of diluent. It's about a tablespoon per cup. Okay, so
It is not water, it is solution with the color.
it's a solution, yeah. Anybody speak French?
A little bit. Je peux français un tout petit peu.
I asked my daughter this year go to Berlin. She go to high school, tries the second language, but it's not easy, right? I know that.
And you'll see there's even, it's got a little bit of an interesting texture even in the painted over areas.
So you have to wait until this dried and before you paint.
Yeah, I will, because otherwise it will further dilute the blue. And I've started with a really, really dark, intense blue there, and I want to keep it. So I'll just sort of work on painting this way.
So now you're using water or
It's yeah, it's water with
something like a glue, something.
it's like a soap,
So
but it's kind of weird because if I leave it out, it dries into this gum. It's kind of strange stuff. And if I use it in a painting, and the painting takes too long,
Too dry.
it scorches when I steam it.
So how about the dark blue? If you base on that color, put a white color, it's come out. If the continue on the top.
This is actually some white here. That's kind of interesting right there. All right. Where's my next shape here?
So do you usually finish, can you just, finish all the solution first and then do the dye?
Yeah. Sorry, it's like, okay, so this is in here. You'll see the leaves start coming out even with the water. As long as I do one cell at a time. So one of the tricks to not going crazy when you're doing this technique is you don't want to end up with huge areas of background that you have to paint because you can't stop.
Right.
Yes, that's true.
That's like your design was perfect because you have little areas of background. Oops, that's in the,
I'm having a hard time to understand what the final product looks like. You have the reference photograph, or you have something which is drawn, or
Final point, okay.
look,
The leaves.
Bunch.
the leaves, yeah.
It's
Okay.
not, it's a bunch of scarves.
This one is going to become that.
Yeah. No, it will be
It
different.
will be different, but
Yeah,
yeah.
but
Okay.
Okay, where's my, well, I am having a bit of a hard time finding this, actually, frankly.
Do you need a chair?
Oh, that might be nice.
Oh, okay, I can.
Now, I'm getting a little bit of the water going over the line. I'm not worried about that. That'll dry.
and how you're sure that the color will not go through the contour? And
the-
it will.
But the color won't go through the lines.
Right,
Oh,
and
well, that's
especially
the-
when it is the edge, because it's not possible to put contour around.
So this, because it has the resisted texture on it, it's less permeable. But so if I have a shape that goes up to the edge, I create the edge all along it. There's another, if you look very carefully, you'll see another line all along the edge.
Okay.
Otherwise it just seeps up into the.
Right.
What kind of brush are you using? Is it just a regular
This is
synthetic or is it a?
Yeah, it's I think this is no, this is probably I want to say squirrel maybe or something like
Okay,
that.
okay.
It's not a super expensive brush, but I love it.
Look like a lizard's tongue.
Yeah, kinda, yeah.
Yeah, it does look like cat's tongue.
Cat's
Yeah.
tongue. That's a lizard.
Yeah, it's nice.
That's the name of a shape,
Yeah.
or shape.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice for getting into the points. Can't believe I left my salt at home. You can use the salt I grabbed is a combination of kosher salt, fine kosher salt, and a little bit coarser. You know, it just the size of the salt granules.
Is the
Well-
salt to use to give texture?
Yeah, the dye, not all dyes, and some move more than others, but the salt wicks the moisture, and then if a dye is a dye that just moves a lot, then it'll separate and do some really interesting things.
You see, this is blue, but it doesn't look like blue.
I know, it looks like dark, it is a dark blue. I wanted it to be extremely dark,
Salt
almost
does
black, but not black.
that- Salt does that on watercolor paper too.
Exactly,
With
exactly,
watercolor.
same thing, yeah.
Barbara, how much time it takes from stretching till
Salt.
the end in painting to make kind of
I don't know,
spark?
5-6 hours,
5-6 hours.
something like that.
Here's salt if you need it.
Oh, thank you. If we, excuse me. If we get tired of doing this, I can stretch the other one and play with salt.
So you can stop halfway.
Yes. Tell you what, when I get this one all wet, I'll put the other one up.
How long does it take it to dry?
It
You want it
depends.
dry, right? You want it to.
I want it dry to paint, yeah.
How long does it take to dry?
It depends on the weather. I have a hairdryer with me. There's times when I can use a hairdryer and there's times when I can't. I don't, I don't just paint freehand on it. I have a pattern that I use, and I use friction pens. It's technically an erasable pen, but it disappears with heat. Okay, do you see are the leaf shape, are the leaf shapes making sense?
I'm assuming you colored your beautiful apron.
My son did it
Okay.
years and years ago. It's tie-dyed. He's now 43. I think he was probably 15 when he did it. No, he's 44, sorry. He probably wouldn't mind me calling him 43. See how it's kind of like, I have to kind of work to get it to go into the.
Barbara, if DuPont solutions and other stuff work with the jacquard,
I'm not sure that DuPont and jacquard get along on the same piece of silk. They're very similar. You could try it. It's basically a different formulation. The solution, the jacquard solution for the solution set, it's if you notice, it's kind of an acid, right? It sort of smells like vinegar.
I see the lines coming up.
Yeah, there you go, see?
Okay.
And it's, yeah. I mean, I could probably just go over the whole thing. The reason I'm not was I was concerned about losing some of the texture, but I think this texture is set, actually. I put this on the heating pad for about 3 hours. And I think it looks like it set the dyes, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I changed the color here.
That's right.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Right there, yeah, there it's drying, see?
Right.
It's kind of blue. And you can see the texture through it, right?
yes. And will it disappear?
Yeah, probably not. Probably. Yeah. I just,
Take a walk over to the box.
they were. I thought they were on sale at Safeway. Then when I got home, I said, I mean, usually I use Costco. There's a company called Who Gives a Crap?
Yeah.
And I use the toilet paper. It's awesome, but the paper towels just. I mean, it's great. It's great. You know, during the pandemic when everybody was hoarding toilet paper. I mean, mine was delivered, and it's either it's bamboo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good brand. They
Is it
got paper
sustainable?
towels and everything.
Yeah, the paper towel. I'm not as fond of their paper towels. Maybe they have bamboo paper towels in there.
I have some bowls made out of bamboo. It's amazing what they can do out of it. I mean, it's just that they look like plastic bowls.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
More shopping on the left.
Having a little fashion show over there.
Oh. Well, I had them priced at $100 a scarf at Open Studios, but for you guys, I'll do $85.
Cheaper than a few years ago when I saw the price.
It was $100 a few years ago.
You know, it was 90.
90, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was
Well, that was yeah. And then my
2019
price,
or something.
yeah, it was 90. Yeah.
Yeah, now
and then,
you didn't really go up that much.
Well, I went up to 100. Yeah, I just, you know, it's like
So I'm
There's
wonder-
only so much you can,
I wonder,
There
did
isn't-
you take a credit card tonight?
I do. I
Oh,
brought my, I just happened to bring my square.
Okay, yes, I got a credit card.
There isn't a scarf under 200 at the SF MoMA museum store, just so you know.
And you know, they're not handmade.
They're printed.
They're
Yeah.
printed, they're printed. I know, I saw this, like, come on, people. But you don't have to have my scarves, but come on. Support your local artists.
Yeah.
Of course, they're, yeah. Okay. I know, this is like watching paint dry.
You're like watching water.
Watching water dry, yeah. Okay, is that everything? I got a few splotches of water. in places.
pattern is emerging.
So you kind of see it?
Yeah, I didn't see it before, but now.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't see it because I can't.
Yeah, that's why I was asking for
Yeah,
it.
that's impressive.
I don't know how you imagine the final product.
Oh, no, I
Now
have
it's
a,
come
so
out.
this, you'll see this same pattern in a lot of my scarves because, you know, it's like I made a pattern, I just do all sorts of things with it. Okay.
Have you ever float mounted these? Because I'm wondering, because if somebody puts them on the wall, for example, display like that, it takes the wall color, it shines through that, so
Yeah.
I'm wondering.
So, I mean, if you're gonna mount something like this on a wall, you want it on white, a white background,
Yeah.
white behind it. Yeah. Like if you print on silver, you're gonna wanna put it on white.
Yeah.
Barbara, can we ask you a question?
Oh, yeah.
For this texture,
Uh-huh.
how did you make it like, exactly that
Oh,
line?
I forgot to mention, so this is an actual leaf.
Yeah.
I printed it on, okay? So I used the same technique, and this is a bunch of oak leaves. I put them on. And I put, you know, color and so the oak leaves and then gauze over it. And with this,
I think
I have to use glass.
she used something.
Because,
And then she
um,
used those,
So it's, and you have to use heat.
the
So I
resist.
have the pad, and then I have the silk, and then I have the leaves, and then I have the gauze, and then I have
At the same time.
the heating pad, yeah, just like a sandwich.
Natural.
But I have to have a piece of glass between this and the heating pad because the heating pad has, and then I put books on top of it. Diana Gabaldon, great books.
I like her books too.
I have them all and they're heavy. So if I don't have a piece of glass over it, then I'm printing the texture of the coils of the heating pad. I was experimenting using, and so this, I cut it in half.
Yeah.
Because here's the other, whoops, here's the other half. Right. I wanted to see, so I cut it in half and I wanted to see how it would be if I put it in the liquid, setting solution. And it's fine. And it turned out the whole thing was set because it was left for, it was like 18 hours. And it was totally dry when I took it out, and the dyes, the acid, the steam set dyes are set. Just with, so, anyway, and then I wanted to see if I could paint into it. So this is the outline of a little embroidery hoop that I, just a little sketcher. So I went in with the same diluent solution, and then I was able to go in and paint. Yeah. So that's just sort of bringing the leaves out. This is nothing. This is just the leaves. Yeah. And the ferns over there started off with fern prints, and I went and did a whole bunch more to it. But,
Do you have any video?
huh?
Any video?
I
on
don't
YouTube?
have any video. I'd have to set it up. Okay, so this is, right, I am going to, this is dry, so
But
let's,
it doesn't move the color,
Nope.
right? It doesn't move.
so because, so this scarf, I did it this morning, you know, after my other dyes weren't moving like I wanted. I went, oh, what am I gonna do? So I did this morning and set it under the heating pads, and I did not use any, I didn't use any glass, but I just put it under the heating pads. And I did some books. I didn't do books and bricks. I didn't make it really heavy. And I left it there for 4 hours. And that's set to dye. I know.
So let me make sure I understand. So this is the base color, right? The whole thing was this color.
Yeah.
And then you put the leaves there.
Let's see, what did I do? You know, I think what's interesting is, I believe the oak leaves actually imparted some color of their own.
Mm-hmm.
There are techniques of actually printing with leaves.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think the mordant is an iron-based mordant, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole process. It comes out really cool, but there's certain leaves that you can use and that come out with certain colors.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if you look in here, that's yeah. Okay, shall I try to?
Maybe another 10-15 minutes.
Okay, I'm not gonna. So I'm not. Okay, I'm not gonna go ahead. I'm not gonna do I'm not gonna try the salt thing because
Okay. Okay.
But it was a lot of nice information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pass.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I haven't done much. I could probably paint this area too if you want me to do that. It's easy now. I can see how the color spreads much easier now.
You need your pad underneath?
It might help, but it's not so.
Oh, it doesn't dribble through, huh? That's just for visual, the black?
It's for visual, yeah. It helps to and I can take a hair dryer to this dye, get it to dry fast, so it's not going to be sitting here wet.
It's interesting that it dries to become lighter and transparent.
Yeah, now you can see it probably did move the dye a little bit because there is a line on the, you can see.
Mm-hmm.
So you're painting over where you made wet, or
I'm
you're
painting-
painting over?
I'm painting over the wet.
So it's
Oh,
easier
okay.
to paint.
So the water with that little bit of surfactant, the diluent, has opened up the silk enough that I can paint on it.
You say C-E-R-I-T-I?
The S-E-R-T-I,
S-E-R-T-I.
it's a French certi, yeah.
Glycerine opening up the pores of the silk, I guess.
A little bit, yeah. It makes it just kind of nice, like.
No, I know. I'm
Wow,
saying that.
this used to be as dark as that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Something to get the fabric opened up so it takes the dye.
You want it open enough
Yeah.
to take the dye, but not so open that you can't control it.
Correct, yes. So that's a specialized product.
It's I don't know what's in it. It probably doesn't have it should have an MSDS, but I.
So you would salt it when it's still wet like this?
I would salt it when it was wet, yeah. But this probably wouldn't do much with salt. It might. And usually, if I didn't have the resist texture, the dye would just wick all along the
I
edge.
see.
And so I have put a line along the edge of all my areas, but with this, it seems to not do that, because it's rolled, it's rolled silk, and so you can't block off that rolled edge. Now, I could just buy fabric and then I could hem it afterwards, but that's,
Pain.
yeah. And I don't do rolled edge, I don't do rolled hems. I actually tried, it's like, no, I don't think so. I've done some machine hemmed, but occasionally, I buy scarves from Dharma Trading. They do a lot of supplies, batik, and they do a lot of silk painting supplies. Sometimes their scarves, the thread, I had a batch of scarves that were hand rolled hems, and the thread they used for the hems wasn't silk, and so it didn't dye. It was like polyester or something like that. So I had to undo it, and then I had to rehem it, but I put a machine hem in.
So the leaves color will be this, or you're gonna add more color to it?
No, it's gonna be that.
Oh, okay.
And this, I think this will be my last one, and then I can dry it.
The color is pretty white, so it doesn't sit.
Yeah. And the colors kind of pop a little more when they steam.
Really?
Yeah. Rather than, when it's the, yeah.
So if you don't get to finish, if you don't get to finish all the background tonight, does it mean you have to put water again?
No, I don't,
Oh.
because it's been done now. Okay.
And do you wash silk before to start the process?
I don't.
You don't. Okay.
Well, you probably, sometimes silk has, there's a, waxy, or it's, the worms, right, they make the cocoon, and there's some sort of sticky stuff on it. They kill the poor silkworms. Because if they waited for the silkworms to mature, they'd eat their way out of the cocoon, and then they're like, I don't know how, 3,000 feet long. I mean, it's the huge long fibers. There is silk, they call it ahimsa silk. It's non-cruelty silk made from the cocoons that the silkworms have
Hatched from.
And that is actually woven. It's shorter fibers, so you have, like this, the silk fibers are spun, but it comes out a little bit different. But anyway, if the silkworm issue is bothersome. Let's see if this will reach. Almost.
So this is just second, huh?
I'm just gonna dry it so that I'm not gonna do any more right now, but you know, I can't really do anything with it while it's wet with dye. Like that, getting loud. The rolled hem takes longer to dry. You can see a little bit, you know, the texture comes through. Anyway.
Is it the same process if the thread count is smaller? Something like this, for example?
Yeah, it's the same, it's all the same process. It's just, I like to paint on chiffon, I like that a lot, because I love the translucency of it.
But this one, when the paint doesn't leak a lot.
It does. I usually paint with a piece of like butcher paper, my table's all full of, you know. And this is just something I'm experimenting with. This has got the technique, and you can see I actually printed some ferns. And then these are drawn, you know, and I'm just sort of trying to.
And how you were printing them? What was the first step? What did you do?
Okay, it was, don't just pick on my face. I put the,
First you put colors on it, or you, for example, you did something with the silk and you...
I put the, okay, so, this is my reference photo, and I made a drawing from it. And then, I put pieces of fern. Okay. And then, there it is again. Little dog. It's your dog? Oh, I guess I see so. Dog. I forgot to, all right, so, here's, so I did it again, right? And then, this is the resistat I'm painting on.
That's gonna look so pretty.
The stuff, it's a half a tablespoon in,
You outlined the leaves, right?
yeah, with a pen. It's called a friction pen, Frixion. It's a Parker pen. You can get them in different colors. They disappear with heat. Okay, so there I am painting the resistat on. Okay, and then I just blob some dye on. I wanted to stay away from the areas where my ferns were going to be. Right? And then I covered the ferns with saran wrap. And then that's a piece of glass over the saran wrap. You can see my light on the top.
To press it down.
To keep it flat.
Yeah.
And then and then there's the heating pad and my Diana Gabaldon books. And that's a box of envelopes.
So the heating pad is an electric.
It's an electric one. And it's a heating pad, I got them on Amazon. A lot of heating pads have an automatic shut-off for safety reasons. I didn't want that. So you can buy a heating pad without an automatic shut-off. So it just stayed on for 18 hours. There.
18 hours.
Yep. Okay, so there it is. I'm lifting it off, right? There it is when it's done. The ferns are all kind of roasted. And this is what it looked like. That's an impression of the fern.
That's what happens.
And then I just kind of played and I've grown in more ferns and done things.
Interesting.
I'm playing, you know.
So drawing versus impressing the fern, is there a difference in the texture to that, or?
Yeah, so when you do an impression of a fern, you get a fern flat, right? If I want a fern that's doing something else, then I draw it. Yeah. Like that one there, that was, somewhere I have the pictures of that process, but it's buried. Those are all ferns, actually. Well, I put some in too, just just imaginary ferns. But a lot of them, like I went in and that one I kind of did a stencil.
You're still recording?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and I just once again it started off looking more like this, right? And this is how this one is now. It's not done yet, but I don't know if I'm happy with it.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's great. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.